Okay, let's unpack this. We all instinctively think about, where and how we eat, don't we?
Absolutely.
Whether it's just a quick lunch or maybe a relaxed family dinner or something really special, the setting, it always seems to play a role in how we feel about the meal itself.
It totally does.
But just imagine for a second sitting down for a meal somewhere you're paying, a commercial place, and your table is, well, an oil barrel.
Right. Like an actual industrial
Yeah.
barrel.
Does that immediately change how you perceive the whole experience? It sounds almost, whimsical. But it sparked this surprisingly intense debate, and that's exactly what we're diving into today.
And what's truly fascinating here, I think, is how an observation that, on the surface is just about a piece of furniture, a repurposed barrel, right?
Yeah.
How that can open up such a broad and actually quite deep discussion. It really touches on these fundamental things like consumer expectations, what we even mean by authenticity these days in commercial spaces.
Yeah.
And crucially, what we really mean when we talk about good service in the dining world.
Right. It's not just about the food then.
Exactly. It's way beyond what's on your plate. It's more about this sort of unspoken contract between a business and its customers, and how we interpret value in what's becoming a really complex consumer landscape. It kind of challenges us to look beyond the immediate visual, the barrel itself, and consider all the layers of meaning that are embedded in our environments.
Absolutely. And today we're taking a deep dive into a really thought-provoking piece of writing. It's from RGartner, who's known for observing cultural trends and consumer behavior.
Yes.
The piece is titled Painted Barrels and the Price of Service. And what makes this even more compelling, I think, is that this whole conversation, it didn't start in some academic journal,
Right, not some ivory tower thing.
No, it started from a simple comment RGartner made on a viral TikTok video.
Oh, okay.
It's just a perfect example of how these everyday observations, especially now in our super connected world, can lead to some pretty profound reflections on our values and, well, our expectations. So our mission today is to really explore how we as diners, as consumers, perceive value, comfort, authenticity, all that stuff in our dining experiences. And what happens when you get this intersection of creativity, which is great, upcycling, also commendable, and the often pretty unforgiving world of commerce, especially when they meet in these unexpected and sometimes, controversial ways.
Yeah.
This piece really grabbed my attention because it forces us, doesn't it, to think far beyond just the flavor of the food. You have to consider the whole package, the entire narrative of our dining choices.
Indeed. It's about peeling back those layers, isn't it? To understand the holistic experience, the sort of subtle messages being sent.
Yeah, the signal.
And how those messages influence not just our enjoyment, maybe, but also our willingness to actually pay for it.
Exactly. And the whole thing, as you said, it really did kick off with this viral TikTok video.
All right, the origin story.
It showed an entrepreneur based in Turkey who developed this rather ingenious system, actually. He was transforming industrial barrels.
Yeah.
The kind of...
Yeah, for oil, chemicals, that sort of thing.
Exactly. Things usually storing oils, maybe gasoline. And he was turning them into surprisingly functional and visually quite distinct furniture. Tables and chairs specifically for commercial use.
Okay.
The video apparently showed the whole transformation process pretty clearly. He'd make these two circular cuts from the ends of the barrel, and these bits he cut out, they weren't just chucked away. They were cleverly repurposed to be the backrests for the chairs.
Ah, smart. Very resourceful.
And he'd add a seat, some sturdy legs, and boom, a chair made from what was basically industrial waste.
Right.
And the main part of the barrel, the big cylindrical bit left over, that became the base for a table, often with a circular top added, and then painted with various designs. It was quite a striking visual, apparently. It really showed off the ingenuity.
Yeah, and if we connect that to the bigger picture, current trends, this initiative, initially anyway, it really shines as a great example of creativity, resourcefulness, and, well, the positive side of recycling materials.
Yes.
On the surface, it aligns almost perfectly with this whole global focus on sustainability, upcycling, the need to reduce waste.
Which is huge right now.
Huge. So in a world grappling with environmental concerns, finding innovative practical uses for discarded industrial stuff, well, it's often applauded, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Certainly speaks to a remarkable level of resourcefulness, turning something potentially headed for a landfill into something functional and arguably aesthetically unique.
Right.
This kind of transformation, without digging deeper, it resonates with people who value eco-friendly practices and that kind of entrepreneurial spirit.
It really does. You can totally see the immediate appeal. Environmentally, even aesthetically, it's got something going for it. However, and this is where it gets tricky, the TikTok video also showed another detail, an intriguing one, and as RGartner points out, maybe a bit problematic.
Here we go.
There were various brand logos, or at least what looked like brand logos, visibly painted onto these barrels.
Oh, like actual company logos.
Yeah. RGartner, the author we're discussing, specifically highlights that the entrepreneur had adorned these barrels with logos of what seemed to be top-tier brands.
Okay, that does change things a bit.
This is where it starts to get a little less straightforward, a bit murkier, as you put it.
And that specific detail, the logos, it immediately raises a really important question, doesn't it? And the author, RGartner, he doesn't shy away from it.
No.
He notes that the participation of these brands is questionable, which is a polite way of saying.
They probably had nothing to do with it.
Exactly. What he implies, and what seems most likely, is that the entrepreneur just unilaterally used their iconic imagery, their logos, probably to enhance his business's perceived value or coolness factor.
Right.
Rather than operating under any kind of direct endorsement or partnership, or maybe even the brands knowing about it at all.
Yeah.
And this distinction is absolutely crucial for our deep dive today. It introduces this subtle but really potent element into the whole discussion. Is it just clever, maybe slightly audacious grassroots marketing? Or does it actually start to veer into potentially misleading territory for the customer? What kind of message does it send when you, as a customer, see a powerful, well-known brand logo, maybe a luxury car, a famous drink, a high-end fashion label on a piece of furniture, but there's no real verifiable connection?
Does it make you think it's better quality somehow?
Or cooler.
Exactly. Does it tacitly elevate the perceived value, the desirability, maybe even the cool factor of the barrel furniture, even if that feeling is ultimately based on, well, an illusion? This tactic kind of taps into a subtle form of psychological marketing, doesn't it? Influencing how you perceive the quality or status without any actual link to the brand itself. It's like borrowing prestige.
Borrowing prestige, I like that.
And it really prompts us to think about how much of what we perceive as valuable is actually intrinsic versus how much is just carefully constructed or implied through things like logos.
That's a huge point. It really does touch on the core of consumer psychology. Are you, the customer, paying for genuine quality, real comfort, or are you paying for the implied status of a logo that might not even be legitimately connected?
Right.
Makes you wonder what invisible signals we're constantly absorbing. And it's right here, at this point, with these barrel tables possibly bearing unverified brand logos, that RGartner's initial comment, the one that really set off this whole online firestorm, came into play.
Okay, so this is the spark.
This is where it gets really interesting. This is the pivot point. The author's main concern, the core of his critique, wasn't actually about the recycling itself.
Right. We established that the repurposing could be seen positively.
Exactly. From an environmental angle, repurposing industrial waste. Fine. Great, even. Instead, his comment focused very pointedly on whether we, as a society, should normalize paying for a food service where the actual environment where you, the paying customer, are asked to eat is furnished with these repurposed industrial barrels. Or, he also mentions other recycled stuff like wooden pallets, which he notes are controversially used even for beds sometimes.
Pallets for beds. Wow. Okay, but back to the dining.
Right, the dining context. Should we normalize paying for that kind of setup?
And I can imagine that didn't go down too well online.
You guessed it. That comment about normalizing paying drew immediate, strong, very vocal reactions. RGartner himself says that people quickly, and he admits quite rightly, told him everyone eats wherever they want.
Which, on the face of it, sounds totally reasonable. Freedom of choice, right?
Exactly. It seems like an unshakable truth, a basic right to choose, and it makes perfect sense in loads of everyday situations.
But there's always a but, isn't there?
Always a but. Here's where the crucial nuance comes in, and it's a distinction RGartner is really keen to highlight.
Okay.
He makes it clear his point isn't about stopping you from eating where you choose to eat a sandwich you brought from home.
Right. Your packed lunch scenario.
Yeah. If you want to sit on a park bench or a log, or even spread a picnic blanket over a pallet in your own backyard, that's entirely your personal choice. Fine. His critique, though, specifically targets the normalization of paying for a commercial service in that kind of environment.
The act of payment. That's the key difference for him.
Precisely. The act of payment, he argues, fundamentally changes the whole dynamic. It dramatically elevates our expectations, or at least he thinks it should.
Okay, explain that a bit more.
Well, when you walk into a restaurant or a cafe and you hand over your hard-earned money for a dining experience, you're not just buying the food itself, are you?
No, you're expecting more than just the ingredients on a plate.
Right. By implied contract, you're also investing in the ambiance, the comfort of the seating, maybe the attentiveness of the service, the overall quality of the setting.
Okay, I see where he's going.
This changes the whole transaction. It transforms it from just a personal, informal choice, like eating your sandwich on a bench, into a commercial transaction. And that transaction has inherent value propositions that RGartner suggests should include a basic standard of comfort and presentation.
It's the difference between self-sufficiency, basically, and a purchased experience.
That's a brilliant way to put it. And it's a critical distinction. There's a massive difference between deciding to sit on a convenient, maybe rustic park bench for your homemade lunch and walking into a business, being shown to a barrel table, ordering a meal, and then getting a bill that assumes a certain level of service and comfort was provided.
Yeah, the expectation shifts entirely.
To really drive this point home and show the difference in expectations, RGartner cleverly brings in comparisons from that iconic movie, Pretty Woman.
Ah, okay. Interesting reference.
Yeah. And also other common casual dining scenarios we see all the time. Like, he talks about buying a quick sandwich at a gas station convenience store.
Right, we've all done that.
If you've got nowhere else to eat it right away, you might just eat it in your car. Or maybe at one of those simple, often concrete picnic tables you sometimes find outside.
Okay. And in those super casual grab-and-go situations like the gas station,
Right.
you're mainly paying for the food
Right.
and the convenience.
Exactly. The food and the speed.
The act of eating is often just a necessity, a quick refuel,
Yeah.
not really a curated experience.
Not at all.
So your expectations for the facilities, the seating, the ambiance, they're minimal by necessity. You're just glad to get a quick bite. The setting is almost irrelevant to the main transaction. It's about utility, isn't it? Not luxury, not even sustained comfort.
Totally. It helps set a baseline for what we don't usually expect to pay extra for in terms of ambiance. And then he brings in those great scenes from Pretty Woman, remember? There's one where Richard Gere's character is eating a simple sandwich, sitting on the grass, kind of an impromptu picnic.
Yeah, I remember that. Very casual.
And later, there's that scene where the couple eats at what's described as the busiest fast food joint in the neighborhood.
Ah, yes, the contrast with the fancy places.
Right. RGartner uses these to highlight his point really clearly. He says, okay, sitting for a picnic in nature is wonderful. It's idyllic, often romanticized.
Sure.
But then he asks this really insightful, almost rhetorical question. But are we going to spread a tablecloth over the grass, or are we going to place our sandwich directly on the grass?
Good question. What's the implication there?
The underlying idea seems to be that even in a natural, inherently casual setting, if we're deliberately doing the ritual of a picnic, there's often this inherent, maybe subconscious expectation of a certain standard, a bit of effort to elevate the act of eating beyond just stuffing your face. Even if it's just a simple tablecloth to create a defined, maybe cleaner space.
It's about intention, maybe, and respect for the meal, even a simple one.
I think so. And then with the fast food joint example from Pretty Woman,
Yeah.
what was being powerfully conveyed there, RGartner argues, was that despite the obvious lack of fancy facilities or a high-end environment, what really mattered was the company.
Right, the connection between the characters.
Exactly. The shared experience, the joy of just having a good time together. It wasn't presented as an ideal dining setting that you'd choose for its ambiance.
No, definitely not.
It was more like a backdrop against which their human connection and enjoyment played out. The narrative wasn't glorifying the physical place itself, it was emphasizing the value of the human interaction, the pleasure from that shared, unpretentious moment.
Okay, so again, it reinforces his distinction. Personal choice, the value of companionship.
Yeah.
That's different from a commercial standard of paid service where you expect a certain level of comfort. The story wasn't, look how great this fast food place is. It was, look how great their connection is despite being in a fast food place.
Precisely. And RGartner, he doesn't hold back when he moves from these examples to his broader critique. He then makes a really strong, almost accusatory statement. He says, logically, this is a discourse much appreciated by elites to keep people content with little, with crumbs.
Wow. Content with little with crumbs. That's a really loaded statement.
It really makes you sit up and take notice, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. That phrase, crumbs, it resonates with a lot of weight. So this immediately sparks a big question. What exactly does he imply by calling these potentially lower standards crumbs?
Yeah, what's the deeper meaning there?
He seems to be suggesting that by tolerating, maybe even normalizing, these diminished expectations in commercial dining, specifically where you're paying for a service, we might inadvertently be propping up a subtle societal mechanism.
A mechanism for what?
A mechanism, he implies, that could justify or maybe even subtly push the masses to accept less quality, less comfort, ultimately less respect in exchange for their money, all while the service provider potentially pockets bigger profits.
So it's a critique of lowered expectations potentially being exploited.
Exactly. It delves into the psychology of perceived value versus actual value. RGartner's argument hints at a potential manipulation, where maybe an aesthetic of frugality or rustic authenticity like the barrels might be used to mask a deeper erosion of quality and service, particularly perhaps for people with fewer choices. He's questioning whether this acceptance is genuinely empowering. I choose this cool, edgy place, or if it's a subtle form of social conditioning that keeps parts of the population content with what, in another context, might be seen as insufficient or substandard.
It touches on big themes then: economic disparity, access, the whole social contract around paid services.
Definitely.
That's a heavy thought. It really makes you reevaluate those times where maybe you've unconsciously settled for less just because it was presented as normal or maybe trendy. But it leads us right to RGartner's own very clear definition of what he believes makes for good service in a dining place.
Okay, so what's his standard?
He firmly states that good food service doesn't only focus on the food itself, which he admits is obviously the main thing, but also on enjoying facilities and attentive, friendly service. He's really pushing for a holistic view of the whole dining experience, not just the food.
Right, he's laying out his foundational principles. And he's asking us to think about, well, what are the non-negotiables? What are the essential elements that come together to make a truly positive, respectful dining experience from his perspective?
And he gets quite specific, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. He goes into quite a bit of detail, moving beyond just basic function. He insists on things like lighting that helps you taste and digest what you've ordered.
Lighting that helps you digest. That's interesting.
Yeah, suggesting it's not just about seeing your food, but that it contributes to the whole sensory and physiological experience of eating.
Okay.
He also stresses the absolute need for a kitchen and restrooms in optimal condition, which seems basic, maybe, but it speaks volumes about fundamental hygiene, respect for the staff, and respect for the customer.
Absolutely crucial.
And most importantly for our barrel discussion, he believes that where you sit and place your plate to eat should be pleasant, comfortable, and functional.
Pleasant, comfortable, and functional. All three.
Yes. These aren't just minor details for RGartner. He sees them as foundational pillars that contribute significantly to what he calls the overall ritual of eating.
The ritual.
For him, it's not just about physical comfort or basic hygiene. These elements, when done right, collectively contribute to this deep psychological sense of value, a feeling of being respected, cared for as a diner. When these basics are thoughtfully met, it elevates the whole thing, doesn't it? It transforms a simple meal into something more significant, almost ceremonial. It tells you implicitly that your time, your money, your well-being, they're actually valued.
I completely agree. It makes you feel genuinely valued as a customer, which feels increasingly rare sometimes.
It does.
Now, to really hammer home his point about what good service should involve, and to starkly contrast it with the barrel scenario, RGartner takes us to what he openly calls the other extreme.
Okay, where does he go?
He provocatively compares eating on the painted barrel with dining at a Louis XV table.
Wow, okay, that's quite a leap. From an industrial barrel to 18th century French royalty furniture.
Right. My mind immediately jumped to like a grand, opulent dining room in a chateau or something. It's a very striking visual contrast.
It is, and it serves a powerful rhetorical purpose, I imagine. But what's really fascinating here is the historical context RGartner provides alongside it.
Oh.
He argues that these period furniture pieces, which we now often link with museums or super high-end antique shops, were actually once normal for family meals in many homes. Maybe not for absolutely everyone, but certainly for a significant chunk of society.
Really? Louis XV's tables were normal?
Relatively speaking, yes. He recalls these famous dining room sets with their tables and chairs of greater or lesser value, but that had their style. This gives us this crucial historical anchor, reminding us there was a time when a certain standard of elegance, craftsmanship, deliberate design, even in everyday settings, was much more common, more integrated into family life. And his personal connection makes it tangible. He mentions knowing these tables well because he actually had one at home. His father was a furniture restorer.
Ah, that detail about his father, that's so important. It shows this isn't just some abstract idea for him.
Exactly. It's rooted in personal history, a deep understanding of furniture's role in a home.
And he points out that these period pieces, while still beautiful, are actually much more accessible today than they once were. Their value depends a lot on restoration quality, the market.
Right. You can find them. They're not unobtainable artifacts locked away.
But what really caught his attention, and mine too, was the public's immediate reaction online when he made this comparison. People told him they didn't think just anyone could eat at that type of table.
Interesting. So people saw the Louis the Kiff table as exclusively high class, unattainable.
Exactly. And that genuinely surprised RGartner. So what does that public reaction reveal about how we as a society perceive what's normal or accessible in dining today?
That's a great question. It hints at maybe a subtle, possibly unconscious societal shift in our baseline understanding of what constitutes an acceptable standard versus what's now seen as overtly luxurious, aspirational, or simply out of reach for the average person.
Like our standards have dropped somehow.
Or at least shifted dramatically.
Yeah.
It could suggest an erosion of certain traditional expectations for comfort, aesthetic pleasure, inherent value in our daily dining experiences. The very idea that a Louis the Kiff table, which he points out was once a common family fixture, is now widely seen as aspirational or exclusive. That speaks volumes.
Yeah.
It suggests our collective baseline for what's acceptable or even desirable in a dining setting, especially a commercial one, where money changes hands has shifted significantly, and arguably downwards. This reframing of a once common object as a symbol of luxury points to evolving norms, perceived class divisions in dining, where aesthetic quality and comfort might now be viewed as privileges rather than expected parts of good service.
Yeah. Like we've resigned ourselves to lower aesthetic standards.
Potentially. Seeing anything beyond the purely functional as an inaccessible extravagance, maybe?
That's a truly thought-provoking observation, and RGartner keeps building on this. He uses this powerful, really resonant metaphor.
Which is?
He emphasizes this profound idea that a house's table is nothing less than the heart of the house.
The heart of the home.
Yeah, the family's meeting place where you eat and gather with your loved ones. It's such a universal principle, isn't it? The table as the central point for connection, nourishment, shared life.
It really is. And expanding on that powerful metaphor, RGartner argues that all the details around it, everything that accompanies this fundamental ritual of eating and gathering, should emphatically add to it, not detract from it.
Yeah, not detract. Okay.
He offers this beautiful insight. Furniture decorations don't just decorate the place, but decorate the life led by those who inhabit that place.
Wow. Decorate the life.
Yeah. It's not just about interior design, it's philosophical. It highlights how our surroundings, the objects we interact with, the aesthetic choices, they profoundly shape the significance, the emotional resonance, the memories of these shared moments. A table, therefore, is more than just a flat surface. It's a stage for connection, celebration, the unfolding story of daily life. And when the environment, including the furniture, is thoughtfully chosen to enhance this, it gives those moments greater meaning, comfort, potential for cherished memories.
It's about creating an atmosphere that respects and elevates the act of coming together over food, making it more than just the sum of its parts.
Exactly. Setting the stage for life itself, imbuing everyday moments with deeper meaning.
Which brings us right back to the core question that started this whole thing.
Yeah.
Can a painted barrel, despite maybe having some rustic charm, truly offer that profound feeling, like the heart of the house idea?
Right. Can it carry that weight?
RGartner delves into this with a really crucial distinction. He separates the personal connection from the often colder reality of commercial intent.
And this is where he gives a very astute, nuanced answer. He highlights this duality of meaning that an object like a recycled barrel can hold.
Okay, so what's the duality?
He believes, unequivocally, yes, it could offer that feeling if it were a barrel recycled and decorated by yourself.
Ah, the personal touch.
Exactly. If it's your personal project, imbued with your own effort, your story, your intentions, that personal investment, the sweat equity, the creative expression, it fundamentally transforms its symbolic meaning.
Right, it becomes authentic to you.
It becomes a deeply authentic, self-made piece reflecting your values, your personality. However, and here's the sharp contrast, he then states that if you hadn't recycled the barrel yourself, if it's just purchased, presented commercially in a dining place, it would, in his view, convey a meaning of poverty.
Wow. A meaning of poverty, that's stark.
It's incredibly stark.
Yeah.
And it underscores this huge gap between the authenticity of personal creation, where the object has soul and narrative, and the commodification of recycled objects, especially when they're part of a paid service. In a commercial setting, if the meaning isn't personal, if it's maybe just a cost-cutting measure dressed up as an aesthetic, then it can, according to RGartner, convey a lack of genuine investment, or even a sort of forced frugality.
Which translates to the customer as
a subtle but powerful message of scarcity, or even poverty, as he puts it. It's like the difference between a heartfelt, unique homemade gift and a cheap, mass-produced item designed to look homemade but lacks the spirit.
Wow, meaning of poverty. That phrase really crystallizes it. The difference between personal connection and a commercial transaction. It forces you to ask, when we pay, what are we really buying? And this brings us right to the commercial conundrum. How do these recycled materials, like our barrels, actually fare in paid service spaces, where customers are exchanging money for an experience?
Right, the real-world application.
RGartner, being pragmatic, does concede that a recycled barrel system could be useful and acceptable in certain contexts, specifically internal ones.
Like where?
Workplaces, maybe industrial settings, primarily as a cost-saving measure. If you're furnishing an office break room for employees or a workshop lounge, the practicalities and cost savings might make perfect sense.
Okay, so internally, for employees, maybe it's fine.
But this takes us right back to his central question, the heart of this deep dive.
Right.
Is that same logic, the cost-saving utilitarian logic, equally applicable, equally acceptable in a food establishment, where we as customers are paying for a service, paying for food, and implicitly paying for the environment?
He keeps hammering that distinction home, doesn't he?
He really does. The difference between cost saving in a private internal context, like a workplace, versus the value proposition in a paid public service environment.
Yeah. In a workplace, the goal is often efficiency, function, cost reduction. Employees might get it. But in a commercial dining setting, the customer is making a deliberate choice to pay for a whole experience.
And that experience traditionally should include
a certain standard of comfort, presentation, respect for the diner. The implicit contract just changes dramatically the moment money changes hands for an experience.
Right. Our expectations are fundamentally different then. And RGartner brings in this really interesting idea here, almost like a potential exception or a factor, which he calls teenage tolerance.
Teenage tolerance. Okay, what does he mean by that?
He suggests that these kinds of practices, using barrels, pallets as furniture, may have acceptance in places frequented by teenagers who are more tolerant of these habits. It touches on generational shifts, maybe.
That's a fascinating angle for market segmentation. But knowing RGartner's style, I bet there's a catch.
You know it. He's careful to add a critical caveat. He pointedly puts teenage tolerance in quotation marks.
The quotes, always important.
And states that there are teenagers who wouldn't accept this type of service.
Okay, so it's not a universal youth thing.
Exactly. It's not just a simple generational shift where all younger people are automatically fine with these aesthetics or lower standards. While some demographics, maybe Gen Z, might genuinely like a gritty authenticity or an upcycled vibe over polish, there's still a significant chunk, even within that group, who maintain higher standards for commercial services.
So this raises big questions for businesses using this aesthetic, right? Are they really appealing to a broad youth market or just a niche within it?
Yeah.
And maybe more importantly, is this tolerance a genuine appreciation for the look and the sustainability story? Or is it more about pragmatism, maybe driven by lower prices, or just being early in their consumer journey?
That distinction matters hugely, doesn't it?
Immensely. For things like long-term brand loyalty, if it's just tolerance because it's cheap, that loyalty is fragile. If it's genuine appreciation for the aesthetic, that's more solid.
That's a really smart point. Discerning genuine appeal from just acceptance due to other factors. And the original TikTok video, the one that sparked all this, apparently it claimed the entrepreneur was doing great, kept getting orders, commissions, precisely because of the unique look of the barrel furniture.
So commercially successful, according to the video.
According to the video.
Yeah.
But RGartner, being the critical observer he is, adds this much deeper, more skeptical layer to that reported success. He suggests there might be more going on than just people liking upcycled design.
Okay, what's his deeper critique here? Moving beyond aesthetics to business motives.
Exactly. He observes that using barrels and pallets, while visually distinct, could actually be a deliberate strategy by some places.
A strategy for what?
To simulate an image, to create a perception that the business is all about reducing costs, a no-frills approach, implying maybe that they're putting all the money into better quality food instead, like a rustic tavern vibe or a trendy industrial chic spot.
So the aesthetic gives off this vibe of raw authenticity, dedication to the craft over superficial stuff.
Right, and maybe a commitment to passing savings on to the customer. That's the perception it can create.
However, I sense another however coming.
You got it. However, RGartner raises this really important question. He argues the reality behind that facade might be totally different.
How so?
Owners, he suggests, can shrewdly take advantage of this cultivated sense of savings or authenticity to actually extract greater profits for themselves, without necessarily offering better quality food or genuinely passing savings to the customer via lower prices or investing in the overall comfort.
So it's a clever branding move that taps into our desire for novelty or sustainability or perceived value, but might just be about boosting profits.
That's what he's suggesting.
So if I'm getting this right, it's basically a sophisticated kind of marketing deception.
That's a good way to put it.
They're not just selling food, they're selling an aesthetic, a compelling story, maybe being humble, eco-conscious, focused only on the food.
But the underlying business model is just cutting corners on things like furniture, maximizing profit margins, without really delivering on the implied promise of better quality or lower prices.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder how often aesthetics, especially that rustic, industrial, chic, found object look, really influence our perception of value.
Massively, I suspect.
Are we paying for genuine quality, real comfort, authentic service, or are we often fit out and boost its bottom line?
It's a great question.
We see it everywhere, don't we? Where a certain look or vibe becomes a substitute for actual quality or substance. It's clever, but as RGartner implies, potentially exploitative, using perception against the customer's wallet and their genuine wish for value.
Precisely. It's a very astute observation of how consumer psychology can be leveraged. The customer feels like they're getting something unique, maybe contributing to an eco-friendly thing, or tapping into a cool, unpretentious vibe.
Yeah, feels good.
Meanwhile, the owner might just be benefiting from way lower overheads on furniture and decor without necessarily translating that into better food, better service, or lower prices for you. It's the art of selling an experience that feels authentic while operating on purely commercial principles. It really challenges us as consumers to be more discerning, doesn't it? To look past the surface and really evaluate what we're paying for.
So after this whole deep dive, what does this all mean for us? The diners, the consumers? This exploration has definitely made me re-examine my own dining expectations and how often I might just accept a certain level of comfort or service without really questioning its value or its cost.
Yeah, makes you think.
RGartner's central challenging question really sticks with me now. Should we pay for a service and experience that fundamentally doesn't meet a basic standard of comfort and quality, regardless of how good the food itself might be?
It elevates the question beyond just taste, doesn't it?
Totally. It's no longer just about flavor. It's a deeper question of value, of principle, and maybe what we as a society are willing to normalize in our commercial dealings.
And ultimately, RGartner's argument brings us back to this profound, enduring truth, I think.
Yeah.
He believes a restaurant's table isn't just furniture. It's symbolically, functionally, part of the very heart of the dining service.
The heart of the service.
Yeah. So all the details around it, the lighting, the cleanliness, the comfort of the seats, the staff's attention, they should all collectively add to that ritual of eating and gathering, not detract from it.
Right.
This deep connection he draws between the physical environment, the service quality, and the emotional, almost sacred experience of dining is absolutely key to his whole perspective. It's about respecting the act of nourishment, the act of human connection, and ultimately respecting the value of the customer's investment.
And that's a truly powerful and definitely thought-provoking idea to leave you with as you think about your next meal out. So, the next time you're out to eat, whether it's, a fancy Michelin star place or just your bustling local cafe, maybe take a moment. Consider not just the delicious food on your plate, but everything on and around your table.
Look beyond the plate?
Yeah. Look at the furniture, feel the comfort or lack thereof of your seat, notice the lighting, reflect on the whole ambiance. Ask yourself, what story is this entire environment telling me? about the place's values, about its respect for me as a diner.
And maybe.
And, crucially, what story are you implicitly agreeing to be part of and endorsing just by choosing to dine there and pay the bill? It might just fundamentally change how you experience and how you evaluate your next meal.